On the table today at Squirrel Stampede, we have the Marvel Legends series, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 collection, as we are going to try to build a Cosmo Dog. I hope she is nice to squirrels. Please be nice to squirrels, Cosmo. Please be nice to squirrels. Well, we have an assorted large collection of Marvel Legends figures to build the Cosmo, several now grouped together in a Guardians themed uniform, which is one of the things that caught my attention the most with this series. I rarely collect a full series of Marvel Legends, so this will be fun and new to me. So lots of figures here to see. Let's get right to the galactic action.
It's a me, a Starlord. No, it's a me, a Mario. No, wait, what? Who's, no, wait, there's Starlord. We begin our Marvel Legends series, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with Starlord. And Starlord will help build a figure part of Cosmo with nothing. That's odd. Starlord wants nothing to do with Cosmo's pooper scooper. So we place Starlord in the back, and we move on to Drax. Drax will build us something of Cosmo, right? There's our working list of Cosmo Builda. We start with Drax at number 1, then Mantis, Nebula, Rocket, Warlock, and Kraglin. I'm guessing they're thinking Starlord the bigger seller, and to exclude out of the Build-A-Figure selection. Funny though, they could have included Cosmo's pooper scooper with him. So it's Drax, and who could not hate Drax going first? Drax is awesome. Oh, this series is so cool with the matching uniforms. Look at them go. And it must be so much more comfortable for Dave Bautista to wear a jacket instead of full body chest paint. Included with a highly sculpted figure of Drax, we've got his dual knives and Cosmo's left leg, or is that right? That's right leg of Cosmo. Package design on these pretty good. Now that Hasbro is going mostly cardboard with their figures, they have a detailed photo of Drax up front with a nice holographic ghosted image of Drax behind. I think they've already packed several other Marvel Legends series in this shape. Kind of displayable, although I think I like the brick. The brick design, like we kind of see with the new Indiana Jones Adventure series, a little bit easier to stack and place next to one another. But that's a different franchise. We gotta get Drax out of the box. So, I guess I have to pick a side. Do I open from the Cosmo side or do I open from the Drax side? Let's go with Cosmo side. Keep the Drax side nice and clean, as we've got 6 other Cosmo sides to open. And let me really tear out the cardboard. More sustainable, yet more complicated. And Drax. And Drax. And Drax out of box. This is our first view of that new full-suited blue uniform, brighter blue than I thought. I thought it might be a little more muted, but it is kind of glowy. He's a little stiff out of the box, almost leaning forward a little bit too much. Gonna have to work on his stance. In fact, I'm getting a little bit of leg bowing or bend in his left-right leg. Kind of the downsides of being sandwiched into cardboard. He's a thicker figure though, so maybe he'll relax over the next few days and straighten out. Of course, we have his dual knives included. Forged on his home world. I have been watching a lot of Forged in Fire lately. I was trying to find if there was a name for these knives. Anyone know? I just got dual knives with some homeworld inscribing on them, much like you see on his body tattoos. And installing knives ever so gently. And he's about ready to go to guard the galaxy. Articulation of these fine Marvel Legends figures known throughout the quadrant. Of course, we have head rotation and the ability to look up and down. Then we have shoulders that pin out, movement on the arms, double jointed elbows, wrists that rotate and hinge, hinges at the torso, rotation at the waist, hips that can kick out and rotate, another movement point at the thigh, double jointed knees, and we even have ankles that kind of pivot back and forth. So there's plenty of movement to get this guy into some great positioning if you can keep him balanced just right. Paintwork good up top. His face has great detail, and the red leathering pattern throughout the uniform looks great with the Guardian's crest up front. Pants, not so great. They kind of discontinued the line work of this leather red stripe right here at the thigh. It could have gone down here and around, but they kind of skipped out on that. Boot detail, just black. So they kind of picked their battles. We can store the dual knives, though, into these boots, so that's a nice effect. And closer into that face sculpt detail, I think they've done the eyes really well. I see several layers of paint or something. He's looking right back at us, but I feel the tattoo markings could be a little more clear. They kind of get lost a little bit into the color of his skin, but for actor representation, pretty good sculpt, pretty good sculpt. So the series starts well with Drax. Drax, how about you hang back and wait back here? Rocket. So the next figure in the Build-A-Figure line, we have Mantis. Drax and Mantis always seem to be teaming out a little bit, even so in the holiday special. Marvel's Mantis comes with the back right leg of Cosmo. The number 2 figure in the Build-A-Figure series. There she is on backup box. No accessories except for Cosmo's leg. Knowing Mantis, she will use that as a weapon. So shall we try to open Mantis a little more softly than we did Drax? Mantis out of pack like Drax in same uniform of bright blue with red striping and leather. Guardian's crest on chest. Crazy good likeliness with these figures as always. It seems like even more enhanced face sculpting details with her. They've done so well with the eyes. Lots of high detail paint work going through there. Almost machine printed in a way, I wonder. And then green highlights going out throughout her hair. Maybe kind of a blank stare for Mantis, not exactly the look she usually gives, but will work in a group setting. So sadly no accessories included with Mantis other than her psychic abilities. So be careful what you think around her or what could happen to your brains. Articulation should be similar to all figures. However, with Mantis's hair down the sides of her shoulders, she may have less head movement. I guess it just depends. You may just have to play around with it to get it just how you want. But with thinner arms, you might get easier movement than we did with Drax. It's always a little trickier to stand some of these smaller footed figures. I picked up a few of these display stands off of Hasbro Pulse. These are pretty handy in some of the figures that you want to stand that keep wanting to tip. And it gives you the ability to float them a little bit. So maybe I'll leave her on a stand for a while.
Hey, this is weird.
And of course, these displays are awesome for group displaying. So slide you back here and look for our third Build-A-Figure, which would be Marvel's Nebula. I might need to get another figure stand, although they do come in 3s. Marvel's Nebula comes with the third piece. We've got Cosmo's left back leg. So we almost have Cosmo on all 4s. Nebula also themed in group uniform, with a couple accessories, well done. Both a giant blaster, saber, sword, laser sight, and maybe even a laser pistol. Rocket's got her all squared away. So shall we see Nebula out of pack? Didn't I say I was going to open from this side last time and then I opened Mantis that side? Now I'm confused. We want the Build-A-Figure side. And these haven't exactly been easy to open carefully. And Nebula is out. Each figure gets a little more interesting as we go through these. Her head, though, is almost cloaked by my back wall. Continuing the blue-suited theme uniform, looking good on her, but with a mechanical arm on her left. Wonder how many times poor Nebula is going to get tortured in this one. Maybe a slightly thinner body style than even Mantis. As for head sculpt, yeah, I think Nebula's in there. She looks just about right. Paintwork definitely feels more printed in a way. I wonder how they do that. I'm gonna have to visit the factory someday. And this figure is full of accessories. Which weapon shall Nebula wield? Which weapon? Well, I have this feeling this blaster is going to be so heavy it's going to tip her down. So I kind of like the laser sword. It's interesting. The post on the sword almost looks like it could affix to one of these weapons, but I don't believe it can. We've got a laser pistol and a very large laser gun thing. And of course that other leg to Cosmo. And of course articulation, about the same with all of these. Head rotation will be very easy without hair to encumber that. And of course you can look up and down. Waist rotation, a little easier too with the thinner figure. Drax was pretty tight because of its thickness. But plenty of movement for these figures to really go with a crazy group shot. Wow, Nebula's got some skills. Okay, who would be next other than Squirrel Stampede's favorite Marvel Rocket? Finally, Rocket Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on table. Rocket features the full body of Cosmo, probably because Rocket is smaller and therefore placing extra plastic balances out the weight. Not to mention whatever weapon Rocket's wielding. That's quite huge. So this is definitely a figure combo to look for. You're gonna need that body of Cosmo. You could possibly miss out on a leg, I suppose, but you're gonna have to have the torso to get everything together. Okay, Rocket, let's get you out. Oh. Cosmo's body! Rocket! With a nice blanket pants. And Rocket out of the box. Rocket's so tiny! Okay, Nebula, give us a break here. He's even less than a leg short worth of the others. But of course, just as important. Also suited up in themed uniforms. That's again why I collect these. Crazy good raccoonish face sculpt. I think we've got it pretty close to a raccoon. And helpful tail post stance. That tail really gives you some stability with this figure. And of course, it's even hinged. We've got a point of articulation on there, so you can move it about depending on how you want to stand Rocket. It's a pin, it's a pin. Whew, we can place that back. He may be small, but he does have other articulation points, head rotation. I almost wonder if his mouth opens up. It does. Ever so slightly. Might want to work on that more. Shoulders. Only single jointed elbows, probably because of his size. There is a torso. We do have a torso hinge though, and rotation. Hips, thigh, knee, one joint knee, and ankle. So a little less, but there's still plenty in there. Plenty to work with. I don't even begin to know how to hold this. I gotta figure this out. Does it loop around his neck? How am I gonna do this? Okay, I think I have it. It is always the most difficult thing to get a figure to grasp onto a large weapon as such perfectly. He's even drooping it now. So we have that large blaster included. Good luck trying to get him to hold it. Going to have to kind of fiddle with that some more. But there is Rocket, and of course, the torso section of Cosmo. And we'll get to Cosmo a little bit in a moment. To do that, we're going to have to open these next two. We have Adam Warlock, who we had shortly touched base on with the LEGO Guardians ship build. And Kraglin is here. Kraglin or Kraglin? I'm so known to pronounce everything wrong. These two figures, meh. I mainly just wanted to collect the Guardians. I know Kraglin's kind of there too. And I know you gotta have someone to punch up. But these are your 5th and 6th figure for Build-a-Cosmo, so you kind of have to include them into the collection if you want a full Cosmo. So Warlock with Cosmo's helmet, and Kraglin with Cosmo's front left foot. Who gets the tail? Oh, there's the tail right there under the helmet. So Adam Warlock also with the tail. Okay, let's get these two out, see what they're gonna do. Okay, it's these two. I don't think these figures are going to age very well. I think I way overpaid for them. If you're smart, wait till the end of summer and you'll probably find them clearance to Target. Yes, they're important to this Volume 3 movie, but in the long term of things, figures like this always just feel so bland a few years later. It's up to you how you want to collect the series, but of course we do need Cosmo parts here. There's her helmet and tail, and with Kraglin, we've got Yondu's arrow. The Yaka arrow? Is that what it's pronounced? Yaka or Yaka? There we've got the arrow. I think we can place it even into this little thing here. It's got little trails of its destination included. I really wish Yondo was still around though. He should come with a knife, and I lost the knife. It fell out of the pack. I heard it go ka-tink, and I'm looking all over. I do not see it. If I ever see his knife, I'll share it with you. Out of the two, I really don't care too much about this Warlock figure. He's kind of goofy looking. He's in gold, of course. What is it? Genetically created by super scientists, or I don't know. We'll find out. I'm sure it has a modified story to the new series. Really heavy cape on him. Just kind of very boring. I could totally see this in a bin full of figures in about 20 years. Kraglin is actually pretty good. Face sculpt is pretty good. I guess since he's related to the director, we will give him a free pass included here. And funny, I just realized he was in the terminal list with Chris Pratt on Amazon just recently, so funny I did not notice that. Makeup, it does wonders. Articulation with the two. Kraglin's body type is pretty interesting, so he's kind of luggy in the body there. There's torso there, but no waist. And a very thin-waisted character person. But all the classic points of articulation there. Really good face sculpt, I'll give it that. That is a really good face sculpt. So fun figure there, articulation-wise. And Gold Star over here, whatever his name is, got all the fine points of articulation too. Maybe a little bit of heavy weighted on that cape to encumber him. So, meh, there he is. Again, I suspect if you're trying to build Cosmo cheaply, keep an eye out for shelf posts towards the end of summer. A few of these are probably going to fill up shelves. So now we can finally build Cosmo. We've got Cosmo's torso and head. We've got legs. See if we can match all the legs in their right spots. Is that right? You got to know your animal anatomy, getting the back legs in the right position, front legs there. Let's build up our Cosmo. Yay! Build-A-Figure Cosmo complete! So we've done it! We've built a figure Cosmo, all ready to go to space or in space, ready to team with the Guardians. How so cute! Fairly large Build-A-Figure, much bigger than Rocket. Articulated pretty well. Obviously all those points of installation are going to be hinge points, and then dog elbows, and even wrists, and positioning paws. Back legs too. A little stiff right now. A little bit stiff on Cosmo. Tail, body, torso movement. So plenty of points here. Oh, and great face sculpt. That is really oh so adorable with this one. I'm so glad they did a Build-A-Figure Cosmo. We do have a helmet to place on. I think I have to pop off her head and clip this into the cosmonaut suit and then shield cover, but I kind of like them off for the moment. I get to see more of her face. So there we have Cosmo, a perfect little companion piece. I always like the Build-A-Figure gimmicks, really helps reward you for collecting a full series. So of course we've got to get Starlord out now. And Starlord again, not included with the Build-A-Cosmo figure for some reason. They figured he'd be popular on his own. But we gotta get him in the full uniform too to match the series, so let's open up. It's-a me, a Starlord! No, it's-a me, a Mario! No, wait, what? Who's, no wait, there's Starlord. So Starlord on the table, finally out of 7. 6 figures to get to 7. Or 0.5, is he before the 6? Or after? Now in matching uniform to everybody. That's the most exciting part of this series. Where'd Nebula go? Oh, Mantis. So Starlord here, basically your perfect action figure build, not oversized like Drax, not undersized like the ladies and or Rocket, just a guy action figure ready to fight. You got your points of articulation everywhere, shoulders, arms, double jointed, elbows, wrists, torso, rotation, hips, thighs, knees, double jointed, and feet boots. Mario is ready for battle. We even have his dual pistols. Sadly, no place to holster those pistols. That's kind of a bummer. Drax had a place for his knives. We really should have had a couple spots here somewhere to pocket those blasters, so I'll give that a negative there. Paintwork, all of these have been great upper torso and head. I see that as Chris Pratt in some angles. It's always tough to get a full perfect face. And again, a little bit of a misfire with those legs. For detailed series of figures they like to celebrate, these paint stripes of the red really should have gone through this second thigh piece. And a little bit of boot detail would have been nice. Kinda sad how they skim on what should be a deluxe series of figure. But we're welcoming Quill back to the group. Thank you, Starlord, and we have one more figure. Are you okay back there, Mantis? That looks really uncomfortable.
No, the squirrel broke my fall.
Okay, the last figure in this legendary series of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I kind of definitely overspent on this collection. I do not typically buy too many Marvel Legends, and this series just called out to me, so I kind of just said, alright, let's go with this one. I guess when you rationalize how much a large Lego build is, compared to a series of Legends, kind of works out about the same. And we gotta have Groot, we have to have Groot in there, and then also Baby Rocket is included. So we had to go with this one. So far though, no sightings of Gamora yet. Not sure or not if we'll see Gamora added in later on in the summer. Groot here, a much larger figure. What is this, 20-something Groot now? So Groot is back to fighting action. Let's see what he can do. And Groot is out. And it appears the squirrels are rather attracted to Groot. Yeah, they like Groot a lot. Groot, a friend of squirrels. I was worried about Groot's feet there. Could have been just a little bit larger for foot stability because this is a pretty big figure. What do we have again for height on this guy? So almost 8 inches in height. It makes sense now why he's a more advanced deluxe figure. There's our Baby Rocket included. And giant Groot wings, how do those figure in? Plus a couple extra hand change outs for fists. So there's enough included here to rationalize the value. See if we can get these wing pieces on. They're huge. They're giant pieces. I think this is going to install simply like that, and this is going to place onto his back. And now I'm even more so worried about the weight of this figure all on these little stumpy feet. Stumpy, the key word this time. Wow, what a figure. High on sculpted detail, definitely relying on that sculpt to kind of give it its shadow and look. Just a little bit of green paintwork throughout on the vinage, and that's really about it for paint. Again, they're just using the sculpt to make the figure live. A little more paintwork in that face. I really want to know how they do those eyes now. It can't just be hand painted. I think that's machine painted in a way. Looking good, Groot. Articulation should be fun to figure out. Head rotation, pretty easy. And we do have the ability to look up and down with hinges. Shoulder rotation, maybe a little tight there underneath these bark shoulder pads, but I'm getting some good movement. We've got arm rotation, single jointed elbow, maybe. Oh, yeah, single jointed. Rotational wrist with a hinge. Torso in the upper part here, or I guess mid-center part. Just one torso location. I thought there might be more for a second there. Then we've got hips and rotation at the thigh and a single jointed knee. It's so hard to tell with all this bark. A single jointed knee, very Sasquatch-like, and then a joint, a hinge joint in the foot there. So there's a lot in there. He's just kind of a bulkier figure. The bulkier they get, the trickier sometimes articulation reacts. But I think he should be able to get into plenty of an interesting position. And of course, a small baby rocket figure included. How cute and adorable. Nothing really articulated, a standalone figure. A little closer. Look at that paintwork. That is the sweetest face. You gotta build the baby rocket Lego set too, I think. So now with Groot included, everyone should be together except for maybe Gamora. There Starlord up front, Drax. We've got Cosmo seated. Let's get Mantis back on her stand. Ah, bummer, I broke my stand. That's why she's falling out. The little clip broke. Sometimes clear plastic just has a short shelf life. So we'll kind of float her like so. Where'd Nebula go? Nebula! Careful with those kicks, Nebula! And there, the group shot of costume characters. Obviously, characters like Kraglin will kind of not really fit. And Warlock again, whatever. It's this group. This is the group I wanted to build together for a display. They look so cool in their suits. And I think might be one of the only Marvel Legends full series I've collected. I typically rarely collect even just a figure of a series, so this was fun to do. This was fun to go through.
And that's the Marvel Legends series, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. What do you think? If you liked today's video, please give us a squike, a squirrelive, a squamment what Marvel Legends figure you like the most. Thank you so much for watching. That's what I have to say about that.